was at the Tribeca Festival in 2019 and I saw a film called For They Know Not What They Do.
Hmm.
And that is how I first found out about Sarah because she was one of the subjects of this film. And so it feels very appropriate that there is another Tribeca film that will be celebrating her, especially that she has so much more of a national profile at this point.
Amazing. What a return.
When did you first learn about her existence?
As a trans person making various kinds of work in the world, I definitely knew Sarah McBride's name as I was engaging various kinds of trans media. But it wasn't until I was approached by the producing team about the potentials of this project that I really dove deep into her backstory and learned so much about her. And I will say that it was actually through the process of making the film that I, of course, learned the most.
Was she eager to be a subject in something like this? Because I know that's sort of what the film is about, right? The idea of accomplishing something while not constantly having her story follow her everywhere.
Right. Yeah, you've identified one of the key tensions for sure. And I think we benefit greatly from the fact that one of our producers, Jenna Kelly, went to college with Sarah. And so has long been in conversation about the potential of a project like this. So I think Sarah knew, and it was fun to engage questions of what kind of story we might tell.
It's also interesting to me, just as a documentary filmmaker, how you decide what to include and not to include about her backstory. Because, for instance, that film, For They Know What They Do, is a lot about her experience with religion growing up. And there was a point in this film where her father talks about her setting up a podium. I was like, oh, this is going to be all about the religious stuff, but it's not. It's just about the interest in politics. So I'm curious if there are things that came up in her backstory that you said this is interesting, but we just don't have the time and room to include those here.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for that read. So we are in a moment in 2025 where we have access to a variety of different kinds of trans stories and stories about trans people, and some of the ways in which they rely on a particular kind of coming of age story about gendered becoming. And I thought, well, what happens if we just avoid that altogether and actually ask a different set of questions about coming of age that are actually, to your point, about a political becoming?